Hey everyone, today I thought I would show you guys how I go about setting up a doll display. So behind me we have my Barbie house where some of my Bratz live. I'm sure you've seen these dolls before in the background of many videos. And I had to empty out this house so Colleen could use the structure for a photo for my Flickr. And I thought before I put them back, maybe it would be cool to share with you guys how I efficiently go about setting up a display. This isn't so much like how I decorate displays and what kinds of units work and what kinds don't. This is literally just like how I go about actually putting things on display. But if you are interested, I can make a video on my display tips. This Barbie house I got for my 20th birthday back in 2011. My dad bought it for me at a flea market for $15. I love it to bits and pieces, and pretty much since it's been mine, my Bratz dolls have lived in it. I mean, I had some Mary-Kate and Ashley's in here at some point and a few Dolls of the World Barbies, but then my Bratz needed more room and Bratz trumped everything else. So that's where they all live now. Obviously, these are not all my Bratz. And I'm going to put everyone back where they were. Some basic tips that I can give you guys on how to make this go really smoothly. So in my case, I'm not rearranging anything. I'm quite literally just putting the dolls back how I already had them before. But so if you're doing that, say you're doing a mass shelf reset, you're moving, you're rearranging your room, whatever, the best piece of advice that I can give you is put your dolls somewhere safe while you're doing that. So all of my loves, they are in here. They are in this container. It doesn't have a lid because I really didn't need it, but I do have the lid for it downstairs. It's good to do that. And I've done this before when I dismantled my huge Bratz shelf above this display back about 2 years ago now in June of 2017. We did all of those small Bratz collection videos that were broken down by character. So like there was one for Bratz boys, one for Jade, one for Sasha, etc. And what we did is we pulled all of the dolls off display, and because of the nature of the videos that we were filming, we grouped them by character. So I had like containers for each character and group. So I think that's just a really good way to keep your dolls safe, especially if you have pets like we do. We have cats, and Oliver loves to chew dolls. So I don't like to leave them in a pile, especially if you can't get to setting the shelf right away. You probably don't want them like clustered on your bed or on a desk, something that you might need in the meantime. Isn't really so much a thing. Your display is not pre-existing and you're just setting it up for the first time. However, I will say that when you go to set up a display, it's nice to have a vision ahead of time of what you want, and that way you can see if that space will, number one, accommodate your idea, and number two, organized displays just look better for the most part. I have people come over my house from time to time who aren't doll collectors, who know nothing about dolls, and even they can see that there's like a method to how I display them, especially with my Bratz shelves above me. There are so many dolls packed in there, so I kind of choose to group dolls that I think look good together, and or like in the case of this dollhouse, I have kind of like little setups because I have some furniture. So that's a good idea to kind of have a vision in your head. And if you're dealing with a lot of dolls and like a vast display space, it can be intimidating. So for me, when I wanted to arrange my shelves above this, boop, all those huge ones. When my uncle first built those for me in 2012, it was really daunting figuring out like how to spread my dolls evenly across them. So I basically counted how many dolls I had and which dolls needed to move to those shelves, and then I divided that number by the number of shelves. So I have 3 shelves, and that gave me kind of a rough idea of how many dolls needed to go on each shelf to evenly distribute things. That's a good idea if you're looking to do that. Obviously it's not going to be perfect. And then organizing the dolls into smaller subcategories will help. I don't just like take random dolls and shove them on display. I'll have them grouped by, for me, line. A lot of my dolls were their original outfits, or and then I have similar lines near each other. So for instance, in this dollhouse, I have it organized by music and rock themed dolls, you know, my Bratz rockers. Then this middle shelf is like a big slumber party. This is all my pajama themed dolls, or like spa kind of dolls. And then down below here, this was originally like my Bratz prom setup, but I have other dolls that are like formal thunk down here too that look like they could go to prom because they're wearing fancy clothes. So, and then the top here, this is where I keep my birthday themed Bratz. So that's how I did it, and also it's good to have an idea of what kinds of play sets you're going to use and any accessories, because that's going to take up more space. I don't personally have little accessories on display anymore. I did used to, but I ended up having so many dolls on display that I was afraid of losing the accessories, and it just made dusting a lot more complex. And now that I have so many Bratz dolls especially, you wouldn't even see the accessories. But if you are, make sure, if you are going to use accessories, make sure you have kind of the ones you want to use set aside. For me, you can see I have some cars over here on the desk, and like the beds I was using. So I have all of that stuff set aside already. In this case, I use the cars to kind of hold dolls up, so that's really handy because they don't always stand very well. This dollhouse is not the most level surface. My next order of business is going to be to redistribute these dolls into piles based on what shelf they're going to go on, because like I said, they're all together now because I was taking photos of them, so I had them organized more by character than by doll line for the photos. So now I have to reorganize them. And I also want to say that before you set up your display, make sure it's clean. Even if it's like a brand new piece of furniture, sometimes when you move it around or you're assembling it, little dust and debris and hair gets on there. So it's just easiest to clean it while there's no dolls. And if you are just reorganizing your dolls onto display like I did with these guys, it's good to look them over, wipe them down, make sure they don't have dust on them, change hair elastics. If you want to change their outfit and that outfit change is going to affect what shelf they go on, do that now before you get into organizing them. So I'm just going to take my dudes. And this is going to be like my prom section here. And something else you could do if you wanted is you could, if you have wide enough shelves like I do, you could stack the dolls on the given shelf to keep them out of the way while you're kind of sorting through everything. I'm actually going to do that now because I don't know if I'm going to have time to like reset this all in one go, and that way they're not like laying on the floor and the cat won't climb on top of them. And I also have a little list here of dolls that I need to reshoot their faces again because there was mostly because their earrings didn't photograph so well. So I'm just going to go through and we're going to put my prom guys. And like Flashback Fever Jade here, who is wearing the wrong outfit. She needs her face rephotographed because her earrings didn't show up very well in my first photo, so we're just going to put her aside altogether. And likewise, I forgot to photograph Birthday Chloe's handmade headband, so we're just going to go put her aside too. And I also want to point out, as you can see, my dolls look pretty nice in this container. They're not like tossed in a haphazard manner. And that's because I feel like the nicer you handle things and put them away, put them aside, the nicer they're going to look for display. Why make more work for yourself than you have to? You just love Caress's cornrows. This is Style It Yasmin. She is my childhood doll, and she pretty much always has cornrows. And as I said, I did change all of the hair elastics that I needed to before I went ahead and put these dolls back after I photographed them. So they're all fresh. Usually, like this Sasha doll, all of hers are popped, so. All of the dolls are now in their respective places on the shelves. This is the pile of dolls that I need to reshoot photos for. We are back. It is the next day. I didn't have time to finish yesterday. All the dolls are on their respective shelves, and I'm about to put them back. There's a very specific way that I set up like a unit like this in terms of the order of which shelf I start with. Now, when you start setting up shelves, I recommend going from top to bottom. The reason for this is because if you set up things on the bottom, say I'm like here, I'm like reaching over to set up this shelf now. It's not such a big deal in the dollhouse because these are all very contained, but as you can see, like on these shelves above the dollhouse, these dolls hang off. So if I was trying to put dolls on the top shelf, I would be brushing up against all of the dolls below them, trying to set it up, and therefore they would fall down. That is why I like to set up from top to bottom. However, when you dismantle a display, say that you wanted to reset these shelves above here or whatever, I would do the reverse. I would start from the bottom to the top, because if I'm reaching on the top to pull dolls off, I'm going to end up knocking down a bunch of dolls. The only reason I would do it differently is if I'm not resetting it all in one day. Most of the time when I'm like dusting these big shelves, I do it one shelf at a time. In that case, I would start with the top and work my way down to the bottom, because the bottom, if I set them first, they're going to get messed up from the next days of me working my way up. I hope that makes sense. Basically, you want to set them up and take the shelves apart in ways that cause the least contact with you bumping into the dolls. So I'm going to start here on this shelf, and what I like to do is I will group the dolls. Oh, hi JD, you're wearing clips. I had her have her hairpin back to get pictures of her earrings. What I like to do is I will group them by line, because while these are all party themed dolls, I like to keep the lines together. So also it's a good idea to plan who you want in like the play sets. So I have on this top shelf, I have my 2010 Cruiser, FM Cruiser, and I always keep my party dolls in the Cruiser. Another tip too is it's good to think about which dolls stand and which dolls sit better. So these dolls have articulation, and they therefore, like, their shoes tend to come off very easily, so they don't stand well, and that's why I feel like they work really well in the car. Plus they're less bulky than your standard Bratz doll because of this, so they slide in and out of the car easier, and they can like sit on the hood of the car better because of the way they're articulated. So I'm just gonna group them. And obviously, like, Flashback Fever Jade isn't actually part of this 06 line, but she is dressed in one of the outfits, so I would keep her with them. And then I just have, you know, random stragglers that I will put together. Now, something you could do too, I obviously have dolls on the lower shelves because that's where I put them yesterday to keep them out of the way, but usually I'll just kind of use the empty shelf below to set the dolls, and it makes it easier for me to like kind of just grab and put them back. And I always need a comb when I'm setting up shelves. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my big play set down first. Now, I don't do this for every shelf, but as you can see, because of the distance between this shelf and the one above it, you can't stand any dolls, so I always put the car down first. And a lot of the times what I do is I'll actually put the dolls in the car first, so I can position them nicely, and then I'll just kind of stick the car down. And I don't know why, I always put Yaz and Sasha in the car. Actually, part of why Sasha lives in the car is because study abroad Jade decided to hurl several dolls from the top shelf down, and Sasha actually got knocked off of off the top of the dollhouse one day. So, problems when you have too many dolls on display. They get into fights and throw each other. So now I'm going to put this back. And then I'm not going to put the dolls that sit on the car just yet. And yes, this is broken. I bought it like that. I have 7 dolls that need to sit kind of around the car. So I plot out who's going where. My lovely 07 birthday dolls together. Like, this isn't an ideal display situation, but Mama doesn't have room anymore for Bratz dolls, so this is what we're working with. Alright, now I'm going to put the dolls on the car. And yes, I do have 2 Party Chloes. My dad and I looked everywhere for Party Chloe the last Christmas, see if he was alive. And when we couldn't find her, that's how I ended up with other Bratz dolls. And later on, I bought this one on eBay for New Year's Eve 2012. And then this Chloe turned up a few months later at a Big Lots me and my dad had checked for her. So I had to get her. That's why I have 2. So my first shelf is done. Now honestly, I only set this up for the video because I plan to start photographing some things on this shelf, some of the dolls on this shelf, so they're kind of going to be in the way, but for the sake of the video. So now I'm going to have to do similar things on this shelf. So I'm going to like put all my Music Festival Vibes dolls together, and anyone wearing their clothes, as you can see, Eye Candy Phoebe is wearing their outfits. And then I have the Mike dolls. And my rock dolls are the ones that use the Rock Angels car. I know you're probably like, why don't the Rock Angels use the car? That is because they did used to use the car. But again, these guys are articulated and they do not sit well. And my dad bought me the Rock line for Christmas 2011. And he also found me this at the flea market. This is like one of my favorite playset pieces in my collection. Very sentimental, so it makes sense. Have a sentimental dolls in a sentimental car. And a little tip here, you're probably wondering why these wigs aren't flying off. I don't usually do this. I feel like it's kind of mean, but other than if you don't do this, then the wigs come off. I've seen a lot of like doll customizers do this. They put little sewing pins. You can kind of see, you probably can't, but there's like a little sewing pin that you just stick in through the wig cap, and then it goes into the top of their head and it holds the wig down. Because I didn't used to do that, and it was a nightmare. The wigs were coming off all the time. Did you know this Girls Really Rock Chloe was my very first flea market, actually my very first Bratz doll of 2013, I want to say. Okay, so on this shelf, like I said, it's already clean. I'm not going to put the car on first, and that is because I set the dolls up all around the perimeter, and then I use the car to kind of hold them up. I have a lot of duplicated Rock Angels dolls. I'll like stand one set of dupes and then sit the other. Although I have 2 regular Rock Angels Yazzes and 1 Rhodey. Same doll, they just wear different outfits. And the bigger the shoe, the better they stand. So these guys, although they have platforms, they do not stand very well. So I definitely want them to go behind the car. So that's something else I keep in mind. Why are you shedding? I hate these wigs. I love your dolls, MGA, but you suck at making wigs for them. Now I'm going to cleverly place my car right at the dolls that, as you can see, already decided they wanted to topple over. And there we have it. So I'm going to repeat this same process on the last two shelves. My camera is flashing low battery, so it's probably going to die, but you get the idea that I usually will organize people by line, figure out who is going on the playset, and I put the dolls in the back first, then I put the playset in, and then I sit all the extra dolls. Okay, so I have finished. I apologize, my camera died, and while it charged, I finished putting together the dollhouse. So we have my top shelf here with all of my birthday themed Bratz. My rockers, musical themed kind of shelf. This is my slumber party themed shelf. I have like quite a bit of growing room over here, as you can see. And then bottom down here, it's a little bit dark, but this is my fancy themed doll shelf. And it helps too, little tip. So like Winter Ball Beauty Chloe over here is wearing Formal Funk Chloe's very puffy, voluminous prom outfit. I put dolls in like really puffy clothes in the corner because when I have her like out in the middle, she kind of blocks out other dolls and also topples over because of the weight of her outfit. So that's just a little tip. Just like sitting dolls that don't stand as well. And the 2015 Bratz, the 2016, 2015 Bratz, they have the extra big heads, so they're really good corner dolls because their heads are so big that you can see them really easily. So that is everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed and that maybe these tips could help you out. And until next time, love your dolls, love yourself, and love your life.